A major storm is coming into the west, and we have some rather impressive satellite loops of that. And of course, today's warm weather in the east, I think, may have set a few records here and there. Joe and I will check that for you, of course. And then we have all sorts of things going on as we move through the rest of the week, the weekend, and the long range. So we will be discussing all of those in incredible detail. You will be amazed. All of that tonight and much more on the Joe and Joe Weather Show, which is, of course, as it is every night, brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon in southwest Suffolk County on Long Island. And no surprise, they got plenty of rock salt. They will tell you that. And they also have all the great snow and ice melt products. One of these days, we're going to get a snowfall or snow and ice, and no one's going to have any of this stuff. So here's your chance to just have it in your home just in case. And maybe if your snowblower isn't working, because well, you wouldn't have been able to test it out, use it much so far, or if at all. And of course, if your electric goes out, generators, batteries, flashlights, scrapers, shovels, etc., all there at Omni. 631-756-1125 for the best prices anywhere, and the website is
OmniTrueValue.com. And tonight, Joe's what to do in case your snowblower doesn't start, and it may not start because you have gunk in the carburetor or you haven't started in a long time. I'm beginning to think I should start my snowblower, in the next couple of days, because
it's not a bad idea, really, but you should run it.
I mean, we had a minor snowfall back, I believe, in early December. It was hardly worth putting any gas in the snowblower for, but I did actually put a little bit of gas, maybe about a quarter of a half a tank, but haven't used it since. So yeah, it's been a month, so maybe I ought to do something. But in case you're having problems in starting the snowblower up, number one, make sure that before you put any gas in, that the gas has a product called Stable, which helps to increase the length of the octane of the fuel oil. But also, if it still doesn't start, you might want to use a product called Mechanic in the Bottle or Seafoam. Joe, when I first heard about Seafoam, I said to myself, "My goodness, what they want me to go and get something that came from the ocean or something, or foam or whatever?" No, it's a product that, like Mechanic in the Bottle, I guess, gets rid of all the gunk that gets stuck in your engine and helps clean it out or clear it out or whatever. And I've used these products, and sure enough, instead of calling somebody up and saying, help me, get my snowblower going, it started right away. So
good. We've got 2 early super chat hits. Actually, I think 3, but I can only see 2. Sal Patchy, very generous super chat hit. Thank you, Sal. Most appreciated. And we will keep the Joe and Joe weather. We've been renewed for another year, Sal, so there's no worries, no worries there. And also from David Fuller, who was hoping for a thunderstorm but didn't get one. I will just say, David, that we didn't have thunderstorms in the forecast for our neck of the woods, so it was probably not going to happen anyhow. But speaking of thunderstorms, Joe, now I'm the sort of person that if the atomic bomb were to go off, I would sleep through it. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. That's how I am. But last night, I was awakened by a clap. The thunderstorm. I don't even know what time it was. I was so groggy that I didn't even think to check the time. But the clap of thunder was so loud. It must have been right over my house because it literally not only just woke me up, but the house shook.
Right.
That's how loud it was, and I guess being 2,200 feet up put me 2,200 feet closer to the base of that thunderstorm. So it was very interesting. I've been awoken before by claps of thunder, but never where it shook the house. And in fact, JJ, who could care less about thunderstorms at all, I mean, a lot of dogs get very and cats get very upset when they
Right.
have thunderstorms around. Mine, my old dog, because we talked about it last night. My old dog used to run toward lightning, barking at thunderstorms as if to say, "Go away, you don't belong here." And JJ's not bothered by that at all, but that one actually even bothered him to where he came on the bed and slept with me for the rest of the night. Yeah. No, he
Oh,
didn't. He didn't make any sound or any noise. I just, I kind of put my head back down on the pillow, and then I suddenly felt something on my side, and sure enough, he was there. And I even overslept by about 2 hours this morning. I slept till 7:30, which I never do. I'm always usually up between 5 and 5:30. So anyway, uh, I didn't notice. I saw Atlantic City got to 70 at noon today, and I know a few other places got to 70, and I do know that Mount Pocono set a record high today of 59, but they're way up. But they did get to 59. I imagine, I think the New York City, the park got to uh, at least 66 that I know of.
66 would have tied the record. Whether they've gone above that briefly, I guess, is yet to be seen. But it was a warm day out there.
We have a Bill Rayo on the chat board, Joe. And
A Bill
he's a
Rayo.
Bill Rayo, yes. And he says, on my snowblower, I change the spark plugs every 5 years, remove the lead wire, then use a socket wrench to remove the plug, replace the new spark with the new spark plug, being careful not to over tighten the new plug. Now, I'm just going to respond to that by saying, I'm sure Mrs. Rayo does this all the time. Does she not?
Mrs. Rayo has not really looked at our snowblower at all this season, so which is the reason why I mentioned that perhaps it's time for me to just pull the damn thing out and start it up again, because it's been about a month since I put fuel in it. Um, you want to be ready just in case. Just in case, Joe. For example, the GFS is correct about
Oh,
next
please.
next next
I am
Thursday.
I am gonna drive a stake through the heart of those who think that has some chance of reality when we get to the maps, because it's at best a long shot. But I'll get into that. Welcome to everybody on the chat board tonight. Thanks for being here. Welcome to those of you who are lurking, and to those who are new to the Joe and Joe Weather Show. We're on Monday through Thursday at 7:35 Eastern Time, and on Sundays at 11 a.m. Fridays and Saturdays we're off unless there's a storm impacting the Northeast and Northern Mid-Atlantic states, in which case Joe and I will work an extra couple of days and rearrange our days off. So subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn the notifications on, and this way you know when the Joe and Joe Weather Show is on. We would always like to get to 100 likes every night, so if you like the show, hit the like button because it makes us feel good. And Joe Rayo will be monitoring the chat board for those of you who have comments or questions or observations or information to share or anything else along those lines. So, on that
It's
note,
weird. It's weird because that we have a Bill Rayo tonight. For a long time, we had a Bobby Rayo, but then Bobby Rayo has suddenly disappeared, and now suddenly we have a Bill Rayo, I guess, to take the place of Bobby. So we had a Bobby, and now we have a
I
Bill.
have a Billy. All right.
Fine,
So,
whatever.
why don't we take a look at this monster storm? Oh, by the way, I saw a headline. Oh, what did it say? Oh, it combined. Oh, it combined. I'm gonna move myself out of the way, obviously, so that you folks can see how impressive this is on the satellite loop. I mean, that's a really wound up animal. The headline, Joe, read, and it was the combination of two phrases that both of us just can't stand. It says bomb cyclone, okay? Bomb
Right.
cyclone to bring atmospheric river into California.
Yeah, that's what the guy on Channel 7, WABC in New York, on the evening news at 6:30, the national news, they led off with that. So I don't know who came up with that headline, but apparently it is making waves, literally and figuratively,
Yes,
Joe.
okay. You added. Well, you did a bad pun. I can forgive a bad pun, but
Yes.
these phrases and cliches to describe these storms. I mean, it's a major storm. And it's really really impressive. Look at the occluded front that goes from the low center in that giant comma that goes all the way out. I mean, I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean that's actually the bottom of that tail, Joe, goes out to the Hawaiian Islands.
Yeah.
Look at that. That's
Yep.
impressive. That really is impressive.
Oh well.
You're not
There
impressed.
you go. No, I'm impressed. What can you say? There are no words. There are no words for something like that. That's an amazing scenario that we're looking at right now, where the actual storm is closing in on the West Coast, or actually the Pacific Northwest. And yeah, the front, I presume the cold front, stretches all the way down and around and all the way out to the Hawaiian Islands. It's absolutely amazing.
Yes, it is. And I'm trying to get the watches and warnings map up, and most of it is confined as far as watches and warnings out along the west coast. You can see California. If it's not a wind advisory or a high wind warning, it's a winter storm warnings, and they have a bunch of those in the Sierra Nevadas. I'm sorry, Johnny Quest messaged me. I think he said Mount Shasta got over 50 inches last night, and they're still at it. But it's all crazy out there in the west. There's also some flash flood watches that are lying underneath all of that. San Francisco, by the way, space specialist on Twitter, who I follow him and he follows me, uh, tweeted a couple of days ago from one of the prior systems that had moved in. San Francisco broke their record for 24-hour rainfall record, getting 5.5 inches in 24 hours. So they're just piling it on in terms of the rainfall, and there's no end to it. I mean, over the
They
next
have they've received already half of their normal winter seasonal precipitation, half, and we're only now into early January. We still have a couple of more months to go, and it just keeps coming down. And I made the comment to Renata when we were out in the desert Southwest in May and looking at reports of all of the severe drought and California, Arizona, everything. Oh, we need water. Oh, please pray for what. And I looked at her at dinner tonight. And I said, well, they got what they prayed for. Maybe not as much as they're getting it all at once apparently, but they got it. Be careful what you wish for, because sometimes
you may
you'll
get
get it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Winter weather advisories in Minnesota, a few counties in northern Iowa, northwestern Wisconsin, the upper peninsula of Michigan, what's left over of the storm that went through the plains last 2 days, and of course that's swinging through a cold front here in the eastern part of the United States. We had a lot of severe weather across the southeast earlier today, but most of that is done. And we have winter weather advisories in New Hampshire, Vermont, and at least southern Maine, including the coast, by the way, and into northeastern New York. And this is for snow and ice. Probably no more than a few inches out of this, but at least somebody's getting something from that respect. And the rest of the country's pretty well quiet. I'm going to jump to the U.S. satellite loop. I have to reload it here. Sometimes it goes out. Oh, it was kind of funny when I went late this afternoon to look at the satellite on the West Coast. The storm was gone, and it wasn't there, and it's looping this loop, and and I'm looking at it, and it's like that can't be. It just can't be. And sure enough, for some reason at the GOES, they suddenly went back to a satellite loop from November
Ah,
and were running it, and then they fixed it. For some reason now the Go site is not loading, so we'll just let that spin away, and in the meantime we'll take a look. Here we are. We're not even at 8 o'clock yet, and the back edge of the showers, Joe, already out of New York City, off the New Jersey coast. And if they haven't ended by you, they're probably going to end by the time I finish this sentence. And you see the precip runs up into New England. You get some moderate patches of precip up in New Hampshire and into Maine, and there's rain that's back over even into southern Canada there, and I mean, that shows you how much warm air there actually is. And in the south, which was another day of severe thunderstorm warnings and tornado warnings across southern Georgia and coastal and North Carolina. Well, now all of that's pretty much offshore. We're seeing some showers and a couple of thunderstorms offshore the northern part of Florida and off the northeast coast of Florida, running northeastward. But for the most part, the severe weather threats of the last couple of days are done, and there's nothing going forward as far as severe weather. But take a look here in the west. Here comes the next surge. It's in, and they're getting hammered with some heavy rains now in San Francisco. Is a really impressive band. There might even be some thunderstorms in there that are coming in from offshore, and also up in northwestern California, seeing some heavy precip.
You say that, and I've looked at the radar, and it does look indeed like the precipitation, the steady precip, is moving on out. However, I think that overnight tonight we're going to have quite a bit of low cloud cover, maybe some areas of spotty drizzle or spotty mist, and areas of fog as well. So even though it looks like it's going to dry out, it may not necessarily be dry. It may remain rather damp out there through the night tonight and at least on into the early part of the day tomorrow.
While you were talking here, I got the hazards map out so we can look at what's going on currently on the West Coast. I'm just kind of curious as far as the winds are concerned. So let me just double the observation here and see what we got. All right, so in these obs load and Barnaby, which is northwest of San Francisco near the coast, it's 54. I assume it's heavy rain going on there, or certainly is raining. They're not reporting any. They don't report precip here at this station. The wind is southeast at 12, but it's gusting to 40. Half Moon Bay Airport, where it's overcast. They're not 4 miles in mist, they call it. South wind 36, gusting to 49. A little bit inland in La Honda, it's 55 there with a 10-mile-an-hour wind from the south-southeast, but gusting to 39. I'm just trying to check all these gusties up and down the coast. Let's go a little further north. Oh, here's a gust of 50, and that is at Arena Cove, 26. Wind from the east at 26, gusting to 50 miles an hour. And climbing the coast even further, Eureka. Can you load the observations, please? Oh, good God. Round and round and round the circle of death goes. There we are. Well, there's not much to be. Most of the gusts here. There's a gust. Is that a 66? Yeah. Cooksey Mountain, Joe. Cooksey Mountain. 18 from the southeast, gusting to 66 miles an hour. They're getting quite a bit of wind. And inland, let's see if there's anything we could see in the Sierra Nevadas. See what kind of winds they have there, because we just saw the forecast for the high mountains. We're forecasting winds in excess of 100 miles an hour. Here's a gust to 60, and that's at Mount Elizabeth. They're 48, 35 dew point, southeast at 30, gusting to 61 to 60. In Cottage, it's gusting to 61. Here's W. Wolf is the name of this place. South at 5, that's only a gust of 16. I'm sorry. I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. But temperature's there 33, so that's good elevation there. So they're probably snowing or will be snowing. And the winds aren't too high yet in the mountains, but that arm is still got a ways to go. I'm going to overlay the radar on here. And I'm going to do that. You know why? Because I can. And there you go. So right now, right around San Francisco, it's 58. And in San Francisco, that's probably they're getting moderate to heavy rain there. 58, 55. North at 7, gusting to 28. That's probably downtown and not near the coast. And in Half Moon Bay, we already did. San Francisco International is 59, 54, 28 gusting to 38 there with heavy rain, 2.5 miles visibility. So they're getting another hammering of rain, clearly.
Clearly, yeah. And Joe, the way the overall pattern looks, there are more of these monsters. Maybe not as robust, maybe not as potent as what we're seeing right now, but there are more of these Pacific storms out there that are lurking and will be slamming in one by one into the Pacific coast over the next few weeks. So I've been maintaining that although the folks over at NOAA, the Climate Prediction Center, are saying that La Nina is going to be ending soon, I'd have to say right now it's dead. It's over. I mean, this is definitely not a La Nina pattern. This is, in fact, more of an El Nino pattern as opposed to a La Nina or a La Nada, a neutral pattern. This is amazing. That this is just what the doctor ordered. I know they don't want to hear about this out in California and Arizona and out in the West where they've had severe drought, but they needed something to alleviate it, and this is what they needed. Unfortunately, it's coming all at once, but what can you do? That's the way weather can be sometimes.
Right, and these are the forecast snow amounts for the Sierra Nevadas through Saturday 7 p.m. and we're looking at, I see a 25 print, I see a 54, I see a 37. You get the idea, folks. I mean, they're just going to get absolutely clobbered with snow. Not a whole lot going on snow-wise though through the rest of the West. It's only maybe a coating to an inch or two here and there, which is usual stuff. Left over around the lakes, we have the chance for another as soon as the colors, well, maybe the colors aren't going to all, oh, there they go. A coating to a few inches, some hot spots in the upper peninsula near the coast getting about 4. There's a 6 up there too. And then as we look in the northeast, again, this is through Saturday, 7 p.m., you're seeing a coating to an inch or so in New Hampshire and Vermont and up in northeastern New York, basically to the west of 87 and up in the Adirondacks, coating to an inch or two, also in southwestern New York, um, 2 or 3, and that's all she wrote. So some of that's probably I don't know. I really didn't look too close about why they've got numbers here of 2 to 5. It could be for a little couple of weak systems that are going to be coming through Thursday night, Friday morning. Maybe a little bit of lake enhanced snows there, just a little, and not much else. This is the La Nina. What's going on in the West is really not. It's just not a La Nina type of pattern. It should be dry in California like it was last year and maybe even the year before. Well, it's changing there. We'll see. We'll see if it changes in the east.
Now, Chuck Cardillo's asking, why are the SOI values so high, indicating a strengthening of La Nina, even though it is weakening? And I don't know.
Beats me.
I mean, I'm just making the assumption that this is a pattern that was totally not a La Nina pattern that is happening right now. And of course, when they made the winter prediction back in October, they were under the assumption that La Nina was going to continue full bore right on through the entire winter. But it's so obvious, Joe, that it can't possibly be a La Nina pattern because of what's happening right now and what likely is going to continue to happen in the coming weeks ahead.
I'm trying to get the Go satellite site, and it's still not working. So I'm going to give up. I'm going to quit while I'm behind. And let's check out. Going day by day. If you look in the West, I don't see this too often, but if you look at California now, the first period here is tonight into tomorrow night into Friday night into Saturday night into Sunday night, Sunday into Monday, Monday into Tuesday, Tuesday into Wednesday. Somebody's getting heavy rain there every single day. I know California is a big state, and I know that California, to drive from south to north can take, from San Diego all the way up into to the Oregon border is a long, long ways. Covers a lot of ground, but that's pretty impressive though when you add it up for 7-day rainfall totals. That's still every day we chop off one day and add another day, and this forecast basically stays the same. 10-inch plus rainfalls in those areas in let's call it yellowish, okay? Those yellowish areas, and the Sierra Nevadas, that's all going to be snow. So you're talking 100-inch plus amounts in some places, and the heavy rains extend up into the Pacific Northwest. Not too much going on in the east. It's mostly in New England, mostly in upstate New York, a half to 3/4 of an inch, and a lot of that's happening right now. So it's front end loaded. Otherwise, if you go from New York City south and west, it's under a quarter, under a tenth, and in some places as little as 100th of an inch over the next 7 days. Central Gulf and the Texas, East Texas and the coastal bend, 3/4 of an inch to an inch and a half, and not a whole lot going on in and around the Great Lakes. So looks like it's going to be well, whatever precip we do get. It seems over the next week, Joe, is going to be just light stuff from time to time.
Yeah, yeah. And if you want a real cheapy thrill, it looked to me like maybe Sunday night we get a little minor disturbance moving on by, which could bring us either rain or maybe some rain mixed with wet snow. But it doesn't really look like there's going to be any kind of significant or meaningful accumulation of snow with that system Sunday night. But it is going to be turning progressively chillier as opposed to where we were at today. Tomorrow, maybe about 10 degrees cooler, more like close to the 50 than 60 or low 50s, and then back into the 40s we go for Friday on into the upcoming weekend.
Probabilities of snow for the next 3 days. So this takes us to Saturday evening. You can see where the higher probabilities are for at least 2 inches. It's all out in the western part of the United States. And if I go to 8 inches, it's really confined to the Sierra Nevadas where you have 100% probability of at least 8. Last night I put the 30. Is there a 30 there? Look at that. They still have a 50% probability, Joe, in 2 small spots there of at least 30 inches.
Yeah.
Needless to say, if we put the 2 inches back on and we're going to go into the east in the next 72 hours, it's mostly in Maine, away from the coast, northernmost Vermont and New Hampshire, a small patch in southwestern New York. And again, this is probably from these couple of weak systems that we'll be going through, and on the upper peninsula of Michigan, and on the updated, let's see, this was updated around midday, so they haven't done a new one since. So as far as the long range is concerned, I'll just leave it on the wide shot because it's all in the west. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The Sierra Nevadas, Joe, every single day has a 70 to 90% chance of at least 3 in the long range forecast through next Wednesday morning.
Wow.
That's crazy. That's crazy. They're going to have some places are going to have 200 inches. They're not going to. God, I don't even know how. We talk about Buffalo. This is Buffalo on steroids.
This is Buffalo squared. Well, Buffalo,
cubed.
Yeah, cubed.
Okay, so I know everybody's. The snow lovers are all chomping at the bit because they all they saw the GFS and what it did today. So I'm, like I said at the start of the show, I'm going to put a stake through your heart, okay? I'm normally not a vicious type of person, but I want to just point out something that I think it's important because I often get annoyed when I get annoyed, Joe, when weather people put up maps. When they put up maps and they don't give it any context, they don't say anything. This is the model, it's not a forecast, to which I say, well, if it's a model and not a forecast, why are you putting it up? And what's the point? Okay? If it's not a forecast. People are going to look at that map and say, that's a forecast. That's what models do. Well, look, after looking at the overall upper air pattern and looking at the models today, actually, both the European and the GFS are similar in terms of the overall pattern going on, but with one major difference, and I just think that the GFS is wrong. And that major difference is if we watch the evolution of what happens over the weekend, okay, I'm going to just roll it back. You're going to continue to see impulses, these upper air systems that are crashing into the western part of the United States. There's one coming for Friday that swings northeastward, just as it approaches California, swings northeastward, at least the upper feature does. Then there's another one right behind that that comes toward Oregon on Saturday, and then there's another one behind that one that comes in on Tuesday. Now, while that's going on, there's a piece of the one that comes in on Thursday, just tomorrow, that gets ejected to the east. Meanwhile, we've got an upper trough that's coming through on Friday in the eastern part of the United States, and that's going to probably produce a little light precip, and it might be maybe a little bit of snow in upstate New York and in and around the lakes. Okay, that goes away. The plains system, the system that gets ejected in the west, goes into the plains, and you see it there sitting in Iowa Sunday morning. Then that gets pushed to the east. Now, when we go into early next week, pay attention to right up here. So this is on Monday morning. GFS and all the models have this in one way or another. So here's the GFS. There's a short wave. There's a little bit of a Canadian jet here that is driving down into southeastern Canada. There's also coming in from all that western energy, some breakaway energy that moves into the northern plains. So what the GFS does is that it brings that northern system down and phases this with the southern system and gets very energetic, and you get this major cutoff that forms sitting over Chesapeake Bay next Wednesday evening with a big coastal low, and the model gave a foot to a foot and a half of snow from coastal New Jersey on northward. Well, guess what? The only way that happens is if the only way something like that even remotely comes close to happening is if you get these two uh, short waves to phase like that. And I just don't believe, Joe, that we're going to see a phasing system here going full negative tilt and cutting off and doing what the GFS is doing. If we look at the European is a little. It has a similar idea, but it never phases those two streams. And I believe that is probably the more realistic idea here. It takes out the northern plain system completely separate, and then eventually does something with something coming down from the north a little bit later on. But that's my view on this, and that's why I don't think it's going to happen.
Now, does this have anything to do with what Adam Lowe is talking about? Because he says that over the next 2 weeks, the MJO is going to go into phase 8.
Yes.
And he said, I cannot throw in the towel for the winter with the MJO going into a phase 8 pattern next week, combined with a I guess that means stratospheric warming. Right. And I have a feeling that the last 2 weeks of January, very different to the first 2 weeks.
Well, look, I'll just tell. As far as the stratospheric, I've been reading up I've been reading on Twitter the folks that really know this stuff, and they're saying that in spite of what the maps are showing, the polar vortex that the stratospheric warming is not what you think it is, and it's not. Basically, it's not going to produce the outcome that you want it to produce. But that doesn't mean that the tilt. But someone was also pointing out that the tilt of that polar vortex could initiate some changes. And actually, when you look at the upper air of the last of the GFS runs today, it does look a little different toward the end of the period. Toward the end of the period, which would take us to. Hold on, I got to get the GFS. I got the European up. So if you take the GFS out to the end, it does appear that it's a bit different in Canada and a bit more a bit of a colder look. Also, it's got a bit of a blocky look there developing in southern Greenland, which is interesting. And you've got a low off of Cape Cod. You got another low near the Azores. So maybe that's January 20th. So if we're supposed to go into this phase 8, and if it couples, maybe that's what we need to see. Because I remember, was it 2 years ago? I think it been 2 years ago or 3 years ago, where everybody was still. I think it might have been 3 years ago. We had a polar vortex split. The MJO went into phase 8, and the Pacific, which up until then was basically a fire hose, across one way or another. Nothing changed because what went on over there in the Indian Ocean and in the West Pacific never coupled with in the atmosphere across the Pacific and across North America. So that's always the danger that yeah, it goes into phase 8, but it doesn't couple all the way across.
So there you go.
That's pretty much it. I mean, that's pretty much it.
Yep.
Anyway, here's the latest run of the GFS, which took the snowstorm away, by the way. So just to be clear, uh, there you have it. So here's our system now. It goes up. Weak system on Friday. Much of the east is really pretty quiet and a little cooler or chillier. I don't like to use cool this time of year. I like to say chillier. We're not going to have record highs again after today. And what did you think of the fact that if you look here, Joe, next this is Tuesday. There is a not too shabby looking cold front here that's coming down in that because the two streams are going to stay separate. So let's assume that that's the case. That comes down and we actually get thicknesses that drop down almost to 510 a week from today. With a developing storm well offshore and a big high over Lake Huron and a nice northeast flow coming down. I mean, that should mean that at least for a couple of days we'll see temperatures that'll be below average.
Well, the average right now is around 38 in the Hudson Valley, a high temperature of, let's say, 38, 39. So, yeah, we could see temperatures that are below that, high temperatures, maybe mid or even low 30s. Um, I'm not talking about temperatures that are really, really cold, like in the 20s or teens, but colder certainly than what we've had today. And in fact, Joe, we did mention this at the top of the show. So let's quickly run down the list here. Newark Airport today, Liberty Airport, peaked at 66. Was that a new record? No. They were within 2 of a record. The record still stands at 68 in the year 2000. Central Park, as we already mentioned, tied a record today, 66, tying the record of 66 set back in 1950. At Bridgeport, Connecticut, the record was 59 in 1998, and they fell 2 degrees shy of that, 57 this afternoon along the Connecticut coast. Islip, however, did break a record. Islip hit 65 degrees today, breaking the old record by 1 of 64 set in 1998, same year that they set a record at Bridgeport. LaGuardia, interesting, tied the record of 66, same as Central Park, and that record at LaGuardia, same thing, 66 in 1950. And finally, JFK Airport, they got to 61. That set a new record for the date. The old record was 59, and that was set back in 1998. So we have 2 new records set, 2 records that were tied, and a couple of them that came so close at Bridgeport and also at Newark.
By the way, I'm just looking at both the GFS and the European. The European's just one day slower. The GFS has it Thursday morning. The European has it Friday morning for low temperatures in the teens. So, it does, at least the way the models are showing, that cold front and the colder air behind it is actually relative. It's not insignificant, but it does certainly bring, bring a pretty decent shot of cold air
Right.
for the end of next week. Nothing like what we saw in December, obviously, but just want to make that clear. And here we go. Just to, again, no major storms in the east, by the way, other than the fact that maybe snow lovers will catch a break, and the models are wrong in the timing of the stuff the short waves that are moving across Canada and trying to drop into the eastern part of the United States, and maybe they're also going to be different with what's coming out from these western storms, how much energy gets to get ejected eastward. So maybe you'll catch a break, but it's a long shot. And by the way, there's a second low after the first one goes. Well, this is Monday, Sunday night into Monday. So that goes out. After this one, the European actually has a second low that brings snow to Georgia, to northern Georgia, south and North Carolina. In fact, I'll just bring up the 12Z European, and you can see it here. Yeah, that's a 12Z. So on the European, and again, this map, the European doesn't show precip type. It just shows how much precip. So everything is green. But if you check on Pivotal, you can see that where the frozen is. But here's the first low. See, the European Joe ejects that first low off North Carolina, just takes it straight east and takes it way offshore. There's a second low on the European in Kansas there that drops south. Look at this. It digs so far south that the low goes from Kansas down to off the east of Savannah. You don't see that happen too often where it digs that far south. And then it starts to strengthen as it's off the North Carolina coast and moves northeast from there. I was looking at the ensembles. It has most of them are offshore, not too far offshore, but still offshore after next Saturday. So at best, you could say here, folks, is maybe you've got a couple of long shot chances for some snow in the east after we get through the rest of this week and go into this weekend. And then for the folks out in the west, here's tonight into Friday morning, then it goes away. Then here comes the next one. This is for Friday night into Saturday. Then another surge that comes in into Saturday night and Sunday. Here's another surge that comes in Sunday night into Monday. And look at it, it takes some low that comes up from the southeast. I'm sorry, from the southwest and goes almost into San Francisco. Come Monday night into Tuesday, and here's another one that right at the end of the forecast period, which is next Friday, and then another one after that, which is now Saturday, January 14th. Those people are going to be just, oh God, are they going to be sick of? If they aren't already, they are going to be utterly sick of the rain there.
It's a depressing forecast. You may see a lot of people suffering from depression by the end of this 2 week period coming up. Unless of course you happen to be a duck, then it's wonderful. So,
Yes, exactly. So just back here on the now I can see the chat board. I just want to David Schwartz hitting super chat. Thank you, David. Soul Farmer's Almanac has cold with snow and rain for the first week of January, which is lots of laughs and a big oops. Oh, the chairman, Scott Briller, sent us a Briller Jeopardy tonight, and everybody can play. So are you
yes,
ready?
I have. Now, do you have the question? Because I thought I had the question for tonight.
I thought I had it. He sent me something. Maybe it's for tomorrow. Hold on. Maybe I have tomorrow's and you have tonight. Oh, this is for tomorrow, Joe. So you have tonight's.
Yes.
So
yes,
everybody
yes,
gets to play, folks. Everybody gets to play.
Yes, as soon as I can get it up here. Here we go. On this edition of Briller Jeopardy, average January snowfall for the following cities. Chat board participates.
Right, and so, wait for when he says the city, I'm gonna put the city on the chat board. So wait till I put the city down and then put your guesses. Okay, so what's the first city?
It is Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta,
and this is again
Georgia.
The average January snowfall.
I'm going to say 0.2.
Okay.
And Steve Lapointe says 6. If only, because if their January snowfall was 6, Steve, I would easily be up here in the mountains. Would be sitting here with 20 for an average. Helen Bertona says 1. David Fuller says 5. Oh my God, this is Atlanta, Georgia, folks, not my house. Okay. Desp House daughter, 1.5 inches. Keith James, 0.5. David Schwartz, 0.5. Bill Rayo, 1.5. Jason Schaefer, 0.3. Tim Latex Dreams, 1 inch. Dale
Sammy Presley. Sammy Presley, never seen him before.
0.05. Justin Vale, 1.2. Plain Video, 5 inches. Um, Leaf Johnson was 0.6. Jacqueline Baxter 1. And Hudson Valley Weather says 1.4. And that's his final answer, he says. Okay, so no more. What's the amount?
Well, folks like Luis Arizio and Paul Guviera and Latex Dreams, and who else? I saw Adam Lowe. All of these people I just mentioned got it right on the nose. Helen Bertona, one,
1 inch.
one, uno inch, 1 inch of snow in January.
Okay.
Now the next,
1 inch
the
it
next,
is. Next one
right,
is here's the new city,
Boston,
Boston.
Boston. Yes.
I'm going to say for Boston, 8 point. Well, no, because New York's up to 10. Oh, I'm going to say 10.9. 10.9 for Boston.
Okay.
Chris Alley says 6.5. Sam Presley 9. Daniel Fitzsimmons 14.5. Keith James 14. Helen Bertona 11.5. Northern Grace 11. Plain Video says I live near Boston. Justin Vale 11. Hudson Valley Weather 16. Um, James H 20. Too high. Well, everybody's throwing up so many guesses I can't mention them all. Michael Azara 13. Miss Fallerite 12. John Melander 11.5. Tyler Fienga says 15.5. Scott says 14. Um, Scott also says more than us, which is quite true. Uh, Rich Rothmansky says 4.5, but that's too low. Chris O'Shaughnessy says 9.6. Darnell Overton says 21. No. Howard A 14. Joe Rayo, what say you? What say Joe Rayo?
Boston, 14.3
14.
inches.
Howard A got 4, said 14. Oh, so I was a little low. Scott said 14. And there's a bunch of folks that said 13 or 13.5. So, close enough for horseshoes. Next.
Next city on the list is the Windy City, Chicago.
Chicago.
Chicago, Chicago.
I'll say 12 for Chicago. 12 for Chicago. 20.5 says David Schwartz. Plain Video 9. David Fuller 12. Keith James 6. Frank Riccio 8. Chris Alley 10. Rosemary Osborne 7.5. Justin Vale 9.7. Dennis Cassia 13. Northern Grace 15. Plain Video 12. Leaf Johnson 16. And let's see. Dale Bajuki 12. What say you, Joe Rayo, for Chicago?
For Chicago, the correct number is, where is it here? Oh, there it is, 12.5.
Very good. So anybody that said an even dozen, I would consider that a correct answer. Okay. What did I say? I forgot. I
12.
did say 12. Okay. Well, that's why I consider 12 a correct answer because I said 12. Next, what's the next one?
The Mile High City, Denver.
Denver. You know, January is not a big snow month there, believe it or not. That I remember you looking at statistics a long time ago. Uh, their higher months are more on the outside, and the middle, the heart of the winter, they usually don't get any much because, in theory, they're supposed to be too deep into the cold air. So I'm going to say 11. I may be way off, but why not? I'll say 11. Um, this is for Denver now, so DNVER. There you go. So Adam Lowe says 7. Latex Dream says 10. Rich Rothmansky 7. Scott 17. Chris O'Shaughnessy 21. Plain Video 10. Jay's Boston Emergency Response says 8. Darnell Overton 15. Leon Probitsky 11. David Fuller 9. let's see. Justin Vale, an inch and a half. No, it's not that low. Sammy Presley at 10.6. And Joe Rayo, what is your answer for Denver?
6.4.
Yeah, see, Denver does. The January and February are usually not big snow months out there. March is one of their big months, as pointed out by somebody else on the chat board a little while ago. Okay, and we have what? One more?
One more to go, and it's right here, Central Park.
Central Park. And Hudson Valley Weather says, no, I said 6.5. You did. Okay. You got it right. Central Park, I'm going to say 10.7 is their normal. Tyler Fergus is 9. Miss Fallerite, oh, she's going back on the last one for 6. Jason Schaefer, 8. James H, 10. Christinapedia, 12.6. Jacqueline Baxter, 8.5. Daniel Fitzsimmons, 7.8. Chuck Cardillo, 10.5. Sam Presley, 11. Frank Riccio, 9. Used to be February was the snowiest month in New York City, and then over the last 30 or 40 years, January now became the snowiest month. Ken Musillo, 6. David Fuller, 5. It does feel like -2, Scott. I would agree with you that they actually take 2 inches away. Civilian Warrior, 9. Louis Arizio, 9. And the answer is?
Now, I agree with you that I think January is now the new champ over the course of the winter in terms of monthly snowfall. And so I'm not sure where Scott got this. Maybe this is an old value, but he has 8.8.
That's got to be an old value. That has to be before the new 30-year means. Because even in the last 30-year mean, it was before they updated them. January had passed because of the snowstorms in between 2000 and 2010 pushed January up above February. But it's got to be on the new numbers. It's got to be at 10 or so. Yeah.
You just give me just a moment here because I'm going to go to the local data record values just to see what because sometimes in some cases they have not changed anything in about a year or two, so they may still have that. Let me see here: monthly and annual, daily highest snowfall. No. That's not what I wanted. I want January, Central Park, daily almanac. Go and let's see. So in terms of snowfall, well, I'm looking for month to month daily records here. Okay, yeah. So no, that's not what I'm looking for. I wish, I can't stand the fact that they changed everything. They
I
changed
know. Isn't it awful? It used to be they the New York climate information that they have on the NOAA website is great and just surpasses what a lot of other stations have. They have so much wonderful information on there, and then because now they went to sort of a more uniform website across the whole United States to make it the same. And naturally for us it made it worse because we already had it pretty good.
I can't find it on
Can't
this.
find it?
I can't find. I mean, I'm looking here. As snowfall record highest on this date, I presume, was 9.8 in 2018. That was the storm that you and I we were at FiOS 1. We had that. I remember that very well. Month to date summary, whatever the heck that means, total snowfall 13.0 in 1877. I don't know. I can't tell you.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
All right. You know what? You got all day tomorrow to figure that one out. And we've got we're 2 likes shy of 100. So could somebody hit the like button to get us over 100? It would be most enchanting because we love it when we go over 100 likes. But we're sitting right here at 98. I'm not. We're not going to go off the
there
99.
It is, 100. 100.
You got it. Okay, good. So now we can say and nobody be a. Oh, by the way, I just wanted to mention. So there's a semi-regular person who uh, uh, I blocked off this channel. And the reason why I blocked off his channel is because after repeated warnings to him about putting the same stuff, the same comments, okay, and it was comments about climate change in relation to the East Coast. The thing is, I don't have a problem with the comment if you put it up once or if you put it up twice. But if over the course of several months you put it up basically every other day, okay, I'm not gonna tolerate that. So he's gone. I won't say who it is, uh, but anyway, I got rid of 2 trolls this week. I feel like I've done good. I've you know I've done something good for the team.
Is there any chance that he may come back?
No, no. I've warned him enough times that it was going to happen, and he still did it, and I let it go until today. And you know what? Yeah, I usually let stuff go and let it roll off my shoulders. But if you catch me on a day where uh, I have him twisted in a matter of speaking, like I did today, yeah, he's gone. So that and, the other person on that was on Facebook, and it was at the point, Joe, where the people commenting around him were saying to him, saying to him basically, you say the same you say the same thing every single day. So when other people are noticing it and getting annoyed by it, I say you're gone. So anyway,
And so it is.
so it is. I just don't get people who troll pages. It's like if you don't like something, just scroll by. If you
Right.
just why do you waste your time out of your valuable life to do that? I don't get it. I really don't. That's somebody's going to have to explain that to me.
All right. So on that note, after Mr. Cioffi has finished the night on a rant here about trolls, we will say that we will all be back tomorrow at 7:35, and maybe the long range outlook will become clearer. Who knows? We might even go to a MJO Phase 9 by tomorrow night. I don't know.
I know there is
I
no
don't care.
phase. There is no phase 9.
Well, we'll make one up
We'll make
then.
one up. Okay, that works for me. All right. Everybody, have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow night on the Joe and Joe Weather Show at 7:35 Eastern Time. Nighty night.
Nighty night to all. Good night, Mrs. Good night, Bobby Rayo, wherever you are.